Yeah. Uh, yeah, I was gonna ask Lydia to record. Lydia, you're doing
It's
it? Okay.
recording.
Cool. So here, Lydia and Josie are present. Do you want to say hi, girls?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
We're all in Brazil, in the region of São Paulo.
Okay.
Where are you, Debra?
In New Jersey.
New Jersey. Okay.
Yeah, so it's just at that time of the weather, still cool and some warmer days. So cooler today. But I can see it looks like it's warmer where you are.
Yeah, we're going towards autumn, but it's not cold yet. You know, sometimes at night it gets cold, so it's okay.
And everyone is well. You
Yeah.
all look good, so good.
Thank God, yes. Well, we're really glad you're here. I showed the girls a little bit of your work. I met Debra in a course that she gave in Brooklyn about birth and natural birth and doula. And Debra is a teacher and a doula and a writer and an inspiration for women all over the world. I know that. And would you like to add anything about yourself, Debra, as an introduction?
Sure. I'm a mother, always like important things, and a grandmother. So I have 4 grandchildren, and knowing that you're from Brazil, my daughter-in-law is from São Paulo, and my 3 grandsons are fluent in Portuguese. So I have Brazilian grandsons to share with you, I think a little important part of the intro. And I always say that I am just really blessed and honored to be a doula and an educator and bringing this information, which really isn't new, right? It's really taking indigenous wisdom, the wisdom of our elders and our great-grandmothers, and bringing it and birthing it forward now. And I've taught in 40 different countries around the world. So as much as I say teach, I learn even more, right? Because when you're there listening and learning and sharing and attending births, so much wisdom is passed on by so many. So it's really an amazing journey to see birth in so many different ways and see what we're doing well and where we could be doing much better.
Yeah, that's totally true. And it would be really cool to know how you got into this world of birth and doula, what attracted you there. Could you tell us a little bit of your story?
Yeah, it's been amazing for me. I think that when I look back now, I think I was just born to do this. Like I had this passion for birth when I was a little girl, and I at that time couldn't really put the words to it all, but I wanted to hear birth stories. Like, you know, people want bedtime stories. I wanted birth stories. And I was really lucky that I grew up very close to my great-grandmother. So having an elder that I was with a lot, and my grandmother and my mother and many other women that had birthed in really healthy, whole ways. And my great-grandmother, although she was quite old when I was young, all her babies were born at home. And that wasn't like a conscious choice. It was just where babies were born in the early 1900s in America or anywhere in the world. And so hearing her birth stories as a little girl totally put me in awe, because she never talked about pain. She talked about work. She talked about challenge. She talked about moving, and she talked about leaning over the sink and birthing upright. And so I never heard this model of fear, of pain, of being put down, both physically and emotionally. And so her story, and then my grandmother's story and my mother's story, just made me even more curious to be at birth. And I was quite young. I started volunteering at hospitals, truly trying to get through the doors of labor and delivery. Like I would stand outside thinking, if the door's open, could I run in? And then I started in nursing school thinking I'll go to be a nurse so I can get into labor and delivery. And that was my first look at what was broken. Like my grandmother's stories were not what I was seeing. it was horrible. And that vision of joy and ecstasy and bliss was not what I was seeing. I was seeing fear and pain and medicalization of something that I knew in my heart was more natural. And so that set me off on my own path. And that path led me to become a childbirth educator, to birth myself in when giving birth to my children in ways that felt really whole, and set me, I think, on a path to be an activist to help other people know their options. I always feel if you don't know what you don't know. Like, had I not had my great-grandmother's stories, would I have been inspired to so deeply and profoundly trust birth and see the miracle of it? So it's been this lifelong journey that just keeps unfolding. And it really is. That's why I started off. It's a connection to the past and how we bring that wisdom forward. And I think so many people are missing that connection. We've broken that circle of support and that circle of knowledge that only now is really coming back in a stronger way around the world.
Nice, thank you. I'm going to add something to that because in my family history, it's a little personal. We in the last 2 generations, the births were really traumatic and in hospitals and cesareans and all these things. So I started studying natural birth kind of 3 years ago, and I could have my child at home after 4 days of labor. So like 4 days pushing her out.
Wow.
Yeah. And but I feel that when I tell this story, this sometimes can be almost threatening to other people. It feels like the issue of birth and of sexuality also is a very tender thing for people to talk about. And I would like to hear from you, if you could, give me a tip of how to bring this subject out, because for me, I'm sometimes a little bit too intense about it, because I'm like, I did it, it's amazing, you have to do it. But like, a lot of people feel that almost as a threat. I don't know how to explain. Do you know what I mean?
I totally know what you mean. And first of all, I want to say congratulations, because I think it takes so much strength and courage to examine, especially when you've had trauma, and then be able to heal that trauma and change that into a different experience. And 4 days of labor, oh my goodness, right? Like, that's incredible, and strength and wisdom all in it. But I do think that for many people, there is this sense that birth is almost like a competition or a judgment, or there's a way or not a way. And I do think that that's why a lot of the positive stories, not only your own, but for many people, are silenced, because nobody wants to make someone else feel bad. And I really feel that every birth is a triumph. Every person that gives birth digs deep to find their strength, their wisdom, and sometimes with our best intentions. I always say we only make 50% of the decision. We have another human. And all of you as mothers know that our children don't always listen to us. So even in labor, when we invite our baby to take the easy path, sometimes they take the long 4-day scenic route and they tour your entire pelvis before they want to come out. Or sometimes for their safety and well-being, they need a cesarean birth. So for me, this is not about if it's 2 hours or 4 days, or if it's natural or epidural or vaginal or cesarean birth. It's that if every person understood that there's power in birth, and it's up to you to either claim it or give it away. And I think that when you claim your power and you birth the way you want, and we each have individual and different choices, and then when we need to give up our choice for our baby's health and well-being, that we honor that as what another brave decision and ability to give birth for our children to be safe, that we can turn the table to value every story. And I think there's lessons in every story. And when I facilitate storytelling, one of the things I always say is, if your birth was not all you desired, rather than just tell all that went wrong, can you share 3 things that you would do differently today? What wisdom could you give to someone who's pregnant today so they could better prepare? What information didn't you have that now you wish you had that would help you to make different decisions? And I bet you those questions, right, what you asked yourself in order to do that transition from traumatic births to a powerful birth. So my answer would be, how can we help every story to be valued? And I have this vision. I really hope it happens one day. I know all over the world we have coffee stores. Some are local, some are big commercial chains. Could you imagine if wherever you are in the world, Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. was birth story time at every cafe in the world? And people came, whether you're 95 or 4 years old, whether you're telling or you're listening, and stories were just shared, because it was my great-grandmother's story that changed my life, a woman in her late 80s when I was a very young girl. So if we had a place that stories could be heard and honored and shared, I think it would be revolutionary.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. Thank you so much. Rosie, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, hello, nice to meet you. It's a praise you. Sorry, my English. But I'm mom too. Mizinga, my baby. I would like know if you talk about the orgasm birthday. What is an orgasm birthday?
Thank you. I love that question. So, orgasmic birth to me is the broadest sense. It includes the people that birth in their own way with the knowledge that they want, choosing where, with whom, and how they birth, taking their power, as I just spoke back, that it's their power, their decisions, and that they birth with love, with joy, with pleasure. And that's not to say that they don't also have pain or challenge, because birth is many, many different feelings in our body and many, many different emotions. It's those waves, ebbs and flows. So orgasmic birth is to hold them all, and it is broad enough to say that there are some people, we don't know the percentage exactly, but we guess maybe 3 to 5% of people that actually in the process of birth have a birthgasm, an orgasm at some point in labor and birth. And so orgasmic birth is this wide range. I would never want anyone to think a birthgasm is a performance standard. So like, don't put on your birth plan that you need a birthgasm. I think we have enough pressure to have orgasms every day. We don't need them in birth. So it's really important, the question you ask, what is orgasmic birth? Because some people only hear orgasm and they go, no, no, no. But when you understand that it's really birth with love, birth with joy, birth with power, birth with pleasure, then every person deserves an orgasmic birth. And the fact, as we heard, too many people are experiencing birth trauma. A day that's traumatic should be orgasmic for every person. And we really don't have a language of pleasure, love, and joy in birth. So orgasmic birth is about creating this new language, which really is an old language of seeing birth through a new lens of love and pleasure.
That's great. Thanks.
Can I comment something?
Yes, and also you can ask your question after.
Okay. No, I just think it's super interesting what you're talking about, because I was before reading your website, and when I read about this, and something about you told just now, is that orgasmic is not just related to sexual pleasure. I mean, it's also, but not only. And when I understood that, I had a click, like, oh, this is what she's talking about. I mean, we can have pleasure in many ways. So the birth can also be a different kind of pleasure, but as important as the sexual pleasure.
Yes, totally. And I think that when we understand that pleasure is part of our birthright, that orgasmic birth is not only just birthing in pleasure. When you have a birth that you are in your power and you birth with love and with joy, it changes your life, right? This is a day that you will never forget, and you will never forget the feelings of what it brought to you. And we know this. People's self-esteem goes up. They find power. They open their creative energy. And yes, birth is sexual. I mean, how did we ever get it so that we grow a baby in our uterus? Our cervix, which is a place we can have orgasms from, that must open and dilate. Our vagina, our G-spot, our labia, every single part that's intimate and sexual is stimulated in birth, but birth is not sexual. Like, we would never get men to believe this if we said there's something going to go on in your penis for the next 3 days, but it's nothing to do with sex. I don't think men would have ever bought it. And I think that by stripping and sterilizing birth, we've really sterilized birth. We've taken not only the sexuality out, we've taken the sacredness out, we've taken like so many elements, the emotions away, that we've left us without, you know, for people that can't even imagine pleasure in birth. We're not talking about giving birth in the typical hospital with the typical way. That's not pleasurable. Like, you couldn't have good sex there today if you wanted to, right? But when we can really take back birth and do it in so many beautiful ways and connect our sexuality and our intimacy and our love and do it in our own way, it's orgasmic. And then you can bring that to life and have an orgasmic life.
Great. Yeah, that's super beautiful.
But so it's not related to not feeling pain. Yeah, the
Orgasmic birth. No, I mean, there are people that have no pain. So I want to honor that there are people that pain is not a descriptive word, but there are other people where they had a really painful birth, but pain never became suffering. And I think that's always the difference. You know, pain in labor is pain with a purpose, right? And for many people, it's manageable pain. Just like athletes sometimes reach the burn and they reach a pain, but it's so fulfilling when they keep going and they achieve the event or cross the finish line. I think that we have to redefine that as long as it's manageable pain, you can still have pain and then a minute later have pleasure. There are people I've been with that have had like incredibly painful labors and then have a birthgasm like 3 minutes later, and they're like, can't believe the ecstasy that they're in. So I think we have to realize that when labor happens over 2 hours or 4 days, there's many possibilities in that time of different sensations and experiences.
Great. So I wanted to ask you something about the present times we are living in. So we are experiencing one of a kind moment in life, right? This pandemic has changed the way everyone sees things around them. So I wanted to ask you if you have any tips for moms to be, and doulas, and people that are involved with the act of creating life in this moment where death seems to be dominating everything. So what tip could you give to these people?
Yeah, I think this is so important because it is such a challenging time, but it's also a time, especially for people that are creating life, that are pregnant, that are birthing or supporting birthing people, that we don't take away the sacredness of that, that we still hold that with respect, with dignity, and that people are still birthing in ways that feel respectful and whole to them. I think if anything more than now, we need to find those moments of joy, of love, of connection, of pleasure. And, you know, some people think, oh, you only do that when you're having a good day. No, I think when you're in the most stressful time, what you need is to find that connection, that love. 3 minutes of pleasure will bring down your stress hormones and bring up oxytocin, the hormone of love. And we know that stress weakens our immune system. So I actually say love boosts our immune system. Birthing in love, birthing in pleasure, finding that path. I feel that orgasmic birth and all we're talking about is needed now more than ever. And it is possible within the current environment to still carve out that peace for yourself. And I definitely am seeing it. I yesterday morning talked with someone that had an amazing orgasmic birth. And just before you, I talked to someone else, and I'm here in New Jersey. We are right outside New York City. So we are also part of the epicenter of the pandemic here in the US. And we still are supporting people to have some incredible, beautiful births. And it's really, I think, healing and important for them at this time that this is still available to them.
That's great.
Sorry. Thanks.
Welcome.
And Debra, that was a beautiful trip we just made. Thank you. And I don't know if you would like to talk a little about your book. I didn't read it, so I can't say much, but I know it's about sexuality after birth, right?
Yes.
Would you like to share a little about it?
Sure. I always say it's my newest baby, right? Because we're always creating, and that's the beauty of using our creative energy in many different ways through life. And I believe that sexuality is really the heart of our creative energy. The more that we heal if we need to heal, and the more that we expand our sexuality, the more creative energy flows in many, many areas. So my latest creation is for postpartum, because so much of my work has been about talking about preparing for birth whole, body, mind, spirit, sexuality, then in birth, how can we be respected and have pleasure and an orgasmic birth. And then I started hearing stories all over the world that people that had births that they felt positive about because they were respected and their choices were honored, and they found that love and connection for themselves, their body, their baby. They tended to go on and have healthier sexuality postpartum. And those people that had traumatic births, that had births that felt disappointing or less than, where they were disrespected or didn't have choices, often struggled out into those next weeks and years. And we know around the world that the divorce rate is the highest of people with young children. So I really thought I'd go explore it. And myself, when I had young children, I really struggled. I didn't feel that people had been honest to me and really talked with me about sexuality well in pregnancy, birth, and definitely not as a new mother. Motherhood and sexuality almost felt like a taboo subject to talk about. And so I went on a quest to create the book that I wish I had, that gives voice and honors the stories of people that have great sex. And many people tell me the best sex of their life came after having babies, and those people that face challenges and what helped them heal. So I put together 9 steps, and I use the acronym of the word pleasures because I'm all about pleasures. And those 9 pleasures are in the book for each person to implement and use in their own life to really expand and love themselves, heal their birth if they need to heal it, and to really go deep into what is good sex. What do we know about female sexuality? Some things you may or may not have learned as growing up in school. And so I always say our book is kind of the knowledge base that everyone can use to really dive deep and expand into their sexuality as a new parent. So it's been a lot of fun. And I do want to add right now, we released the Kindle version, and I'm now collecting even more stories, and we're now opening up a call for photos. We're asking women all over the world to send real photos of what does your body look like as a mother. And it can be in any way that you want. Like, it can be fully clothed, it can be not, it can be sexy, whatever you feel is loving your body. And we're going to release a print version of the book in September with an added appendix of stories and also with pictures all throughout. So it's kind of a real journey of mine that every person, no matter what birth asks of you, comes to feel whole and healthy and opens up to your fullest potential as a parent and in all areas of your life.
That's great. Thank you. Would be really nice to know how to participate of that, if it's possible to be part of it.
Please. So we, within a week, are going to set up like a one page on our website that will have all the details of where you can submit stories and where you can submit pictures. And if you could help us, we would love it, because the more people around the world that submit, and even if we can't put them all in the book, we're going to add them to the website. So we'll definitely be building up the website of stories and images, because I want everyone to feel honored and seen, so we can see how incredible we all are.
That's great. We're totally on the same wavelength. That's amazing. Could you tell us the website just now so it stays in the video?
It will be off of orgasmicbirth.com. So if you go to orgasmicbirth.com right now, you can also see the tab Sex After Baby. So orgasmicbirth.com/sex after baby, but it'll all be on the navigation of our homepage. So if you just go to the homepage, you can see the film, you can buy the books, and soon you can enter and share your stories and your pictures.
That's awesome. Thanks, Debra. I think we did great, guys. Anyone that want to add anything? The girls?
No, I think I'm fine. I just wanted to say that your job is amazing. It was really nice to learn all these things from you today.
Oh, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here with all of you and to know that you're creating this beautiful gift that you're birthing forward, all this information and wisdom into the world. So I look forward to following all of you.
For sure. We're going to work in the same web, the same net, I think.
Debra, I love the Sex After Baby because it's very difficult. It's very difficult. You look your body again, you look your partner. It's very important, this job. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, Josephina, I don't have all your emails, I don't think. But if I email you back, right, I'll send you a PDF of the book and you can share it with each other so that you can read it. And that way, if you want to include more about our upcoming, request for stories and that, you'll understand more of what it is.
That would be great.
Would be
Thank
great.
you. Yeah, I'll send to them. Okay, have a great day, and I'll send to you the links of everything, and hope to talk to you soon.
I hope so. Stay healthy and well, and find pleasure every day.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Lots of love.
Bye.